King Saul was a troubled man. His mind was often clouded with dark thoughts and insecurities. Despite his regal appearance and the power he wielded, he was deeply tormented by his own emotions. He was consumed by jealousy. This jealousy was not just a fleeting emotion, it was a deep-seated feeling that gnawed at him day and night. It was a fire that burned within him, fueled by his insecurities and fears. His own son, Jonathan, admired a young shepherd named David. Jonathan saw in David a kindred spirit, a brave and noble soul who had won his heart and respect. Their friendship was pure and strong, built on mutual admiration and trust. David had saved Israel from the Philistines. His bravery on the battlefield was unmatched, and his strategic mind was sharp. He was not just a warrior, he was a hero who had brought hope and victory to his people. He had slain the giant Goliath. The people loved David. They sang his praises. Songs of his valor and courage echoed through the streets and fields. He was a symbol of hope and strength, a beacon of light in dark times.
Saul's heart was filled with bitterness. The more he heard the people praise David, the more his heart ached with envy. He could not bear to see someone else receive the adoration and love that he so desperately craved. He saw David as a rival. In his eyes, David was not just a young hero, he was a threat to his throne, a usurper waiting to take his place. This fear and suspicion grew stronger with each passing day. He feared David would take his throne. The thought of losing his power and position to a mere shepherd boy was unbearable. It haunted his dreams and poisoned his waking hours. Consumed by suspicion, Saul plotted to kill David. His mind was a whirlwind of dark schemes and deadly plans. He could not rest until he had eliminated the threat that David posed to his reign.
David was forced to flee. He had no choice but to leave behind everything he knew and loved. His home, his friends, his life as he knew it, all were left behind as he ran for his life. He became a fugitive in his own land. The land that he had fought to protect, the people he had saved, now seemed like a distant memory as he hid from the king's wrath. He hid in caves and deserts. The once brave warrior now found himself seeking refuge in the most desolate and remote places, always looking over his shoulder, always fearing the next attack. He was constantly on the run, pursued by the jealous rage of a king. His life had become a relentless chase, a never-ending struggle to stay one step ahead of Saul's men. The once celebrated hero was now a hunted man, living each day in fear and uncertainty. One night, David and his loyal friend Abishai crept into Saul's camp. Saul and his army were fast asleep. Even the king's bodyguard, Abner, slumbered. David stood over his enemy. He could have ended Saul's life with a single blow.
Let me strike him down. I will not strike him twice.
But David hesitated. He looked at the sleeping king. He saw not just an enemy, but the anointed of God. David refused to harm Saul. He knew that Saul was wrong. He knew that Saul had hunted him unjustly. But David also knew that God had chosen Saul to be king. He would not raise his hand against the Lord's anointed.
Instead of taking Saul's life, David took something else. He took Saul's spear and the water jug that lay beside his head. This was proof that David could have killed Saul, but he chose mercy instead.
David could have justified revenge. He could have claimed justice for the wrongs done to him. Yet he chose a different path. He chose forgiveness. He chose to honor God, even in the face of injustice.
This act of restraint is a powerful testament to David's character. It reveals the depth of his faith and his unwavering commitment to God's will, even when it meant showing mercy to his enemy.
David called out to Abner, the king's bodyguard.
"Why didn't you protect your king? Someone came to kill him."
Abner was ashamed. He had no answer.
"My king, why do you listen to those who speak evil against me? Look, here is your spear. Let one of your men come and get it. May the Lord judge between you and me."
Saul recognized David's voice. He was astonished. He was ashamed. He realized the depth of David's mercy.
Is that you, David? You are a better man than I, for you have rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded you evil.
David's words were not just about the spear or the danger Saul was in. They were about something much deeper. They were about honor, respect, and the understanding that God is the ultimate judge. David's actions forced Saul to confront his own envy and hatred. Saul, the once mighty king, found himself in a moment of deep introspection. His heart, heavy with the weight of his own misdeeds, began to crack under the pressure of his conscience. The jealousy that had consumed him, the anger that had driven him to pursue David relentlessly, all came rushing back in a flood of regret. He realized the error of his ways, if only for a moment. In that fleeting instant, Saul saw the man he had become, a shadow of the king he once was. The realization was painful, a sharp sting to his pride and ego. He saw the destruction his envy had wrought, not just upon David, but upon his own soul. The bitterness that had taken root in his heart had grown into a monstrous tree, overshadowing all the good he had once stood for.
He realized the error of his ways, if only for a moment. This moment of clarity was a rare gift, a brief window into the truth of his actions. Saul's mind raced with the possibilities of what could have been had he chosen a different path. The regret was almost too much to bear, but it was a necessary step towards understanding the depth of his own failings.
David, on the other hand, remained unchanged. His heart was steadfast, his faith unwavering. Despite the trials and tribulations he faced, David's spirit remained pure. He did not let Saul's hatred taint his own soul. Instead, he turned to prayer, seeking solace and guidance from a higher power. His humility was his strength, a beacon of light in the darkness that surrounded him. He did not gloat or boast. David's victories were not a cause for arrogance, but a testament to his faith and dedication. He understood that his success was not his own, but a gift from God. This understanding kept him grounded, preventing the seeds of pride from taking root in his heart. His calm demeanor in the face of adversity was a reflection of his inner peace, a peace that came from knowing he was walking the path laid out for him by a higher power. He continued to show respect to the king that God had chosen. Despite Saul's attempts to harm him, David's loyalty never wavered. He saw Saul not just as a king, but as a man chosen by God. This perspective allowed him to look beyond Saul's actions and see the divine plan at work. His respect for Saul was not just a matter of duty, but a reflection of his deep faith and understanding of God's will.
He continued to show respect to the king that God had chosen. This respect was a testament to David's character, a sign of his unwavering faith and humility. He understood that his role was not to judge, but to serve. His actions were guided by a higher purpose, a purpose that transcended the petty conflicts of men. In showing respect to Saul, David was honoring the divine order, acknowledging the hand of God in all things.
This interaction reveals a powerful truth. Forgiveness is not about changing the past, but about shaping the future. Forgiveness is a transformative act, one that has the power to heal wounds and mend broken relationships. It is not about erasing the wrongs that have been done, but about creating a new path forward. David's ability to forgive Saul was a testament to his strength and character. It showed that he was not bound by the past, but was looking towards a future filled with hope and possibility. David's act of mercy paved the way for reconciliation and offered Saul a chance to repent. This act of mercy was a turning point, a moment that could change the course of history. It showed that even in the face of great adversity, there is always room for compassion and understanding. David's mercy was a beacon of hope, a reminder that no matter how dark the times may seem, there is always a light that can guide us towards a better future. His actions were a testament to the power of forgiveness, a power that can transform even the most hardened hearts. Saul asked for David's forgiveness. It was a moment heavy with emotion, a moment that would be remembered for generations. Saul, the once proud and mighty king, now stood before David, a man he had wronged so deeply, seeking absolution. The air was thick with tension, but also with a sense of hope. Could forgiveness truly heal the wounds of the past? He admitted that he had acted foolishly. His voice trembled as he spoke, each word a testament to his inner turmoil. Saul's eyes, once filled with the fire of ambition, now reflected the weight of his regrets. He had chased David relentlessly, driven by jealousy and fear, but now he saw the error of his ways. The realization was a heavy burden, one that he could not easily cast aside. He knew that David would be king after him. This knowledge had once been a source of great anxiety for Saul, but now In this moment of vulnerability, he found a strange sense of peace. He had come to accept the inevitable, to see David not as a rival, but as a worthy successor. The future of the kingdom was in good hands, and that brought him a measure of comfort.
He admitted that he had acted foolishly. The words echoed in the silence, a confession that seemed to hang in the air. Saul's heart was heavy, but there was also a sense of relief. Admitting his mistakes was the first step towards redemption, a path he hoped to walk, even if it was fraught with challenges. He knew that David would be king after him. This acceptance was not easy, but it was necessary. Saul had spent so long fighting against this truth, but now he saw the wisdom in embracing it. David was destined for greatness, and Saul's role was to pave the way for him, to ensure a smooth transition of power.
Then Saul returned home. The journey back was a somber one, filled with reflection. Saul's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each one a reminder of the choices he had made and the consequences that followed. He knew that his path was not yet over, that there were still battles to be fought, both within and without. David went his way, still a fugitive, still pursued. The wilderness was his refuge, but also his prison. Each step was a reminder of the danger that lurked around every corner, yet David remained undeterred. His spirit was unbroken, his resolve unwavering. He knew that his time would come, that his destiny was waiting for him just beyond the horizon.
David went his way, still a fugitive, still pursued. The landscape was harsh and unforgiving, but David's determination was a beacon of hope. He navigated the rocky terrain with a sense of purpose, each step bringing him closer to his destiny. The journey was long and arduous, but David's faith never wavered.
David's burden was not lightened. He still faced danger. The shadows of his past loomed large, and the threat of capture was ever present. But David was not one to be easily daunted. He faced each challenge with courage, his heart steadfast in the face of adversity. The weight of his responsibilities was immense, but he bore it with grace. But he carried himself with dignity and grace. In every interaction, in every decision, David exemplified the qualities of a true leader. His faith was his guiding light, his moral compass unwavering. He inspired those around him, not just with his words, but with his actions. David was a beacon of hope in a time of uncertainty. He had shown the world what it meant to be a true leader, a man of courage, faith, and unwavering moral compass. David's journey was far from over, but he had already left an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of those who followed him. His legacy was one of strength, resilience, and unwavering faith. In the face of adversity, David stood tall, a testament to the power of forgiveness and the strength of the human spirit. The story of David and Saul is a timeless lesson in leadership and forgiveness. It reminds us that true strength lies not in power or revenge, but in mercy and restraint. It teaches us the importance of honoring God's will, even when it is difficult. This story also highlights the power of forgiveness. Though Saul had wronged David, David chose to forgive him. He refused to let bitterness and anger control his heart. David's story challenges us to examine our own hearts. Have we shown mercy to those who have wronged us? Have we chosen forgiveness over bitterness? These are not easy questions, but they are important ones. By following David's example, we too can live lives of courage, compassion, and unwavering faith. We can choose mercy, we can choose forgiveness, we can choose to be like David.